And we were totally ready. And 3 months passed, nothing happened. I started cycle tracking. I started doing some focused meditations. Then 6 months passed, nothing happened. I did acupuncture. We changed positions. I started laying down, like whatever you could think of. Then 9 months passed, and then the 12-month mark came. We were like, I think we need to face this fact that there is a problem. Something is not working. And so in Indonesia, we found a fertility clinic. We went to a doctor, and the doctor, I was like end 20s, like 29. So the doctor said, "You're so young, just keep trying, and it's gonna work." And they checked, yeah, it's gonna be fine. There's no problem. So we kept trying for like 6 more months. And then we said, no, we need to go back again, because like, my friends around me, they came with the same idea and they were pregnant within 3-4 months. Not all of them, of course, but most of them. So it felt something that we would have never thought about, it wouldn't work. I mean, if you think about that first night, we were like thinking that it would happen like in a month. And I was calculating like, okay, so if it works out, and I'm gonna we're gonna have the baby in like May, so that's nice for the summer, because then we can fly back to Europe, and then my friends and family can also see the baby. It's old enough to. So everything was just the whole time calculated, scheduled, everything. And then, we saw another doctor, and then we started tests for him, for me. Nothing came out, so we started with our IUI. But then our 3 years of Indonesia were done. My husband was ready to go to Nepal, and we found a really good private clinic in Nepal. And we said, okay, we're still following our dream of Nepal, because that was making me so happy to do that. But we also wanted so badly this little baby for us, like this little miracle. And so we went to Nepal, and I continued there with the fertility treatments. And Nepal was amazing. Everything fell in place. We arrived there. My husband got a job to take over an adventure school there in Nepal. I was running multiple educational projects. We had this community of people. We living in a really tiny, small village, 48 hours from Kathmandu, like in the middle of nowhere on the mountains. And it was just beautiful, having every morning the view of the Annapurna. Most of the times we were so high in the mountains that we were above the clouds, and the view was just amazing. And gosh, everything just felt so good that this fertility treatment that was the IUI in the time that I was busy with. I started there. That was my 3rd IUI that I did, and it was just, it's gonna work. It's gonna happen. We felt so much positive vibes, positive energy, and so I was just about to start my 3rd IUI, and then COVID came. So within 12 hours, the whole country locked up. So the fertility clinics closed. We could not go anywhere, and our project stopped. We were building our house, completely stopped. We could not continue with that. And the land, the food on the land was rotting away, because nobody was allowed to leave their houses. And after, I think we spent 3 months in lockdown there, and then we decided, okay, maybe it's better to take a break now. We fly back to Europe. I have another chance with the fertility clinic in Belgium or in the Netherlands. And then whenever everything is more settled, we come back to Nepal. So that's what we did. We flew back to Belgium. We could not start the clinic there because they have a waiting list of 2 years. It was like, it was already really intense. All the medication, all the just being in this process of, why is it coming so naturally to some people, and why do I have to go through this whole struggle of creating something so naturally? It felt so wrong, and I've always been avoiding like medications, or I've never been in a hospital actually. I've maybe seen my doctor twice for a sore throat that never disappeared, but I always stayed away from that just by eating healthy, exercising, and because I think my positive energy also helps to keep, to keep this positive energy and everything floating. And yeah, so that was quite a shock. And then we found a clinic in Bulgaria. I got a job in Bulgaria, and we moved to Bulgaria to continue our treatments. And that was tough because there I had to switch after I did 6 IUIs. I had to switch to IVF. And it's crossing all these boundaries the whole time. Like, first of all, we're not going to go to a fertility doctor. We don't need that. We're so young, we're healthy. We don't smoke, we barely drink alcohol. Why do we need that? And then, okay, I need treatment, I get medication. I don't want to inject myself. Yeah, before you know, you're injecting yourself. And then with this whole IVF process and all the hormones that go through your body, and just like, okay, but we only do one IVF, okay? And then if it doesn't work out, we just deal with it. Well, it's not working like that. You do one IVF, your hopes are building up. The moment you get this news that it didn't work out, you crash down so deeply. But you also know that if you stay there, nothing is going to change. And this is, again, I think, take back control. And I felt like, okay, but I don't want to regret anything. Like later, I rather regret now that I'm going through this struggle than regretting later that I gave up on a moment that I was just emotionally so drained and pumped up with all these hormones. So we continued. We did a second cycle. We did a third cycle, and I don't know. It's like I'm having a whole monologue here. Sorry.
Oh.
I'm just going.
Well, I just want to pause for a minute because, to be able to go back to it again, to not give up. You said something very important. You used the word regret. And so for me, I'm hearing that you had the insight to look down the road a little bit and know that, the pain of regret for quitting, I believe, is so valuable, because there are so many times we do want to give up and maybe not necessarily think ahead to the regret factor, which can come back and bite us. And
yes.
Right. And so I love that you said that word, because that has a lot of impact. And I know, I don't know if you follow Dr. Wayne Dyer, who's no longer with us. But he talks about there's no room for regret in life. And I love how, if we're tied to that message, it really helps us go that extra mile. So congratulations for being brave enough to do that. And as you hit that second time around, or that third time around, were you starting to feel a little more hopeful, or were you now starting to plan another time where you might stop this and take a pause? Or what happened during that part?
Well, it's really interesting, because was it more hope, or was it more still grieving the other one? It was really confusing. It's this roller coaster of emotions, and like the first 2 weeks of your cycle, it's full of like all this medication, everything. And then the second part of your cycle, you're just sitting there and hoping and imagining and sending positive vibes, doing positive affirmations, and putting your hand on your belly the whole time. And of course, you imagine everything, and you think the whole time that you're pregnant. So you come up with baby names, and you start calculating again the due date and how we can manage everything around us and keep living our nomadic lifestyle, if that works out for the baby, because we're willing to give it up, because we considered everything and things like that. But then when after the first IVF, when I got the bad news, then those second 2 weeks, of course, you have a short break, but you're trying to grieve from something you lost that were, in a sense, was never there. But it's a weird type of grief that's really hard to explain. But then there's not so much time. You need to pump yourself up, because you cannot go with grief through the next cycle. For me, it's always been really important that I was ready for my next cycle, and to be again, 100% hope, thinking that this is gonna be the one that works out. Because when I felt this hesitant, like after my third cycle, I felt really, really down. And that was the moment I said, I need a break now. I've always imagined this whole journey of climbing a freaking steep mountain And on the top, there's this baby. And I just always felt like I'm climbing up like 3 steps and I'm crashing down 4 and I have to start all over again. This feeling of like not coming closer to the top and just wanting it so badly at the cost of everything, because that's the other side of the story. Because, keeping your relationship healthy during infertility is quite challenging. And I'm blessed with a husband who's giving me the space to process everything, and also going through it differently. So we could lean on each other whenever we needed it. But like friendships, a lot of people don't understand what you're going through. Your job, I mean, in the morning, going quickly through 2 appointments to do another blood check. In my lunch break, everybody's eating together. Oh, Rianna is gone again. She doesn't want to spend time with us. But I didn't want to share it to everybody because it was already such a struggle for myself. And then it's, it was at home with my husband. It was already 24/7. It was about the baby, the IVF, the medication, is it cold enough in the fridge? Oh, the fridge switched off. We need to be like everything. My whole life turned around this. And so my job was a bit my relief. But in the meantime, I was juggling all these appointments in the same time. And then the doctor calling, oh no, your embryos are going quicker. So you have to come back this afternoon. I'm like, okay, but I had a meeting. Okay, cancel this one. And it was a lot of disruption. And we took a break, and I decided I need to do something that makes me happy again. I need to follow my own philosophy of like, do more what makes you happy. This is not making me happy anymore. My life was on hold. Everything was just, even I was traveling. For a lot of people, the outside looked perfect because you're traveling, you're living your life, you're doing everything great. And I'm still positive to everybody, but inside I felt so lonely and so, lonely mainly. And even though so many people are going through it, if you hear that it's 1 in 8 couples that are dealing with infertility, how can you be so lonely? It's just like, they're so barely talked about. And we took a break, and I said, we need to go somewhere that's gonna put some fire back in my life. And so we moved to Mexico. And I remember the first month in Mexico, it was nice, and it was Spanish again. It literally felt like this. Yeah, it's nice. I'm living in Mexico. And we were like, wow, you live in Mexico on the beach? And yeah, the beach is nice. Nice blue sky, yeah. And then I remember one day I was sitting there, and I had this visual, I don't know. It was like I was sitting in silence. I was staring at the ocean. And then I was thinking about this mountain that I'm always visualizing when I'm thinking for myself about infertility and how badly I want to go to this baby. And then it just hit me that I was putting everything on hold for on the top this baby, but it might not work out. What is left then? What is left for me? Can I keep living the way I do now if it doesn't work out? And that moment I realized I'm climbing the wrong mountain. I'm climbing a mountain where there's only a baby on the top. And that day I decided, and this is again about taking action, taking back control, taking back certainty, because this whole infertility is so uncertain. You're waiting for doctors, for results, for medication, for like your 2-week wait, you're waiting for everything. Everything is so uncertain. And I was keep maintaining everything. So it was still working. I was climbing the mountain with only the baby on the top. But the mountain I wanted to climb is where I have a baby, a husband that I adore, who is always there for me, a life that I really enjoy, the freedom I always wanted, but also a job that would make me happy, a job that would make me energized, and a job that would give me the freedom to be there for the baby whenever I want to. Have a husband who's there raising the kid with me, and not somebody who's done with all my complaining and all my whole emotional crash, what happened in the last couple of years. And that moment there sitting on the beach, and I just saw, it sounds really weird, but I saw the water of the sea just getting more blue, and the sand on the beach just more white life just opened up again for me. And that was the moment that I decided, like, the doctors are working on it, and I need to work on all the other things, because that's my responsibility. I need to be a good partner for my husband. I need to be totally ready and not be a wreck and hoping for this baby. And then when I just imagine myself having this baby and then having not a partner anymore because he's done with me, and having not this job anymore because I have no time. I cannot do a baby and a job, and the baby is more important. So I put everything as, and there was such a mind shift for me. And that it
You were climbing the wrong mountain. I love
yes.
that you said that. And let's just take a breath for a minute, because there's a lot packed in your story. So let's just breathe a little bit and come back to center here.
Thank you.
Rianna, this is a beautiful story. And you were talking about going from this sense of embracing uncertainty in one capacity to entering into this new field of uncertainty that you started with some hope, some elation, some positivity, and then this uncertainty sort of flipped around for you in the negative sense. And then you went on this next journey through uncertainty where you discovered that you were on the wrong mountain to begin with. And I love how all of this comes full circle to really show us that you came back to ground yourself in what your values were in terms of freedom. And in the beginning, you talked about value. Your number one value was freedom, which got you out of where you were to begin with and through your struggle. And here you are again with that same value showing up for us. And that's freedom, except in a different package.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. And I really want to repeat this quote that yesterday's guest, who happens to be someone you know, gave, and it went something like this: that beautiful things are sometimes wrapped in ugly paper. And that for me really stood out. And this is sort of representative of that journey. And now if we look at it that way, so you start to tear off the paper, the ugly paper. And now you've got this beautiful new vision, right? You're at the ocean, you're seeing this crystal clear blue, you have the white sand in front of you. And it sounds to me like that's your time of clarity. Yes. So take us into that next step of clarity that gets you now to maybe toward the road of empowering people. Let's see how that unfolds for you.
Yeah. Well, I was already coaching women. I was coaching women on transitions, so struggles they're dealing with. And with my story that I told in the beginning about how I moved from my home country abroad and just taking this big leap, this was my base that I used in most of the conversation. And this is why many people also came to me, because they were inspired by this story and they wanted to do this big step themselves, but they thought they were not ready. But we have all the answers within us. I truly believe that. And sometimes it's just somebody can show you another side of the story, something that you didn't see. And that opens up, like it did for me, possibilities and new opportunities. And what I'm now, from this beach moment when I left there, I decided I'm going to live a life again by my creation, my design. And I take back control. And this is one thing I cannot take control over, but I can take control over my health. I stopped exercising. I adapted everything to be the best version I could be. But that was not good for me. So I take back control over my health, took back control over our relationship. We started have date nights again and be even more communicators. And also said, like, okay, there are times we don't talk about this because this cannot be our main topic of conversation anymore. There's so much more. It sounds really weird, but because suddenly I saw this one circle that was just baby written in it. And now I suddenly started seeing, like, there's so many aspects and the baby is a part of it. It's still super important. And we don't give up the hope. We're still in the process and we still hope that it is also for us to experience having a little family together. But there are now so many other things that I can take back the control over, and this is what I'm really focusing on. So that is in the things that I'm doing for my coaching, my teaching, and my consulting, but also, you know, my inner world, my emotional balance, my what things are draining me, what things giving me energy, which people drain me, because you get to know people quite well if you go through a deep struggle and deep transition that a lot of people don't understand, and which people energize me, and try to create my environment more with the people that do energize me and lift me up and make me feel like alive. And yeah, and so that was also the moment when I made this huge shift for myself. That was also the moment that I was ready to change and I don't know why, but I think this is why I started with coaching, like initially, but I just didn't know, because I started with coaching after I've been going through several therapists, psychologists to deal with the whole infertility struggle, and I could not find the help that I needed with them. And then I started talking to a coach, and I realized the therapy and the psychology is very good, and some people really need it, but I'm so future focused. I needed something that did not drag me back to my past, but lift me up and let me look forward. And this coach had nothing to do with infertility in the base. He was just spotting out the things that were important in my life and trying to get me back on my path again of being aligned with the values and the things that are important to me. And that was how I eventually got in coaching as well. I was so fascinated by this whole process. So like I said, I started with transition coaching about this struggle. And then when I got this epiphany for myself, I knew I needed to play bigger and take this process. And it's still like, it's such an emotional thing. And especially because I'm still in it, I think, no, it's anyway a really tough process. I think even the people who do succeed are still looking back that this was a really challenging part. But by speaking up now, I've got so many people reaching out to me, so many women who said, I could not find my voice to express my message. I don't want to talk about it. People don't understand me. I'm looking for support. Nobody can help me. And they resonated either with my story, my background, the way I was expressing things. And it just motivated me to go deeper and deeper for myself, but also be more and more open to it for other women to help them to move forward. So what I'm doing now is actually literally showing them that they're trying to climb this mountain with this baby on top. But what is actually on the top? No, but this is, what I've done for myself, the whole process. I'm going with them through that. And it's just so mind-blowing to realize, and in the moment you don't feel it. So the difference between empowerment coaching and fertility coaching is that the fertility coaching is really focused again on this process. How can you, well, that's not so nice if I say that, but that almost sounds making fun of it. Like, when should you eat your pineapple, in which part of your cycle? And but no, but just it's really supporting in the process of fertility. That was something that was not resonating with me. All the respect for the fertility coaches, because they do magical things and they're really working on a mindset and everything. That was something that was not resonating with me, because I wanted to so badly make this a little bit smaller part in my whole life vision. Not less important, just a bit smaller. And this is why I'm focused now with the empowerment coaching on women who are dealing with infertility to expand all the other areas and see what makes you happy. And that's exactly what I write the book about as well. And it has nothing to do with infertility. It's one of the stories in the book, but it's about what makes you happy and how can you make it happen.
How can you make it happen? I love that.
Yeah.
Can I just say, I love so much in this. In the beginning, you really were talking about when to go on or when to go forward. You weren't quitting. And then you also showed us how you can get to a place where it's time to quit and what to do when you have that predicament. And you now do that through sharing your stories in order to move through to the next level. After you gained that clarity, you're lifting people up, you're pushing people forward as a transition coach. And you're asking, or you're appealing to women who maybe can't find their voice today. And I only bring this part up, not because this show is about me, but because you said something there that hits home with me. And that is, even those that succeed still look back and have that pain. And I do want to say that I too have been through IVF several times. I was one of the successful people with twins in the end. But my husband, at the time, he's a spinal cord injured person. So he was completely paralyzed. And so we were told for many years that we weren't ever going to, it wasn't even possible. And then, things ended up working out, but it was an extremely painful experience. And I just want to say that to you, because one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show is because this topic is one of my personal struggles that I have never spoken about, and that I know women out there are feeling alone, and that I am not the voice to speak on this story. And so I thought, wow, this is something I can speak through you, because it's not something really that I want to talk about. Frankly, I would talk to you perhaps as your coachee, if I were going through that. And I wish actually I had you through that time. And that was one of the things I loved about what you do too, because I hear you when you say there's other people out there that do these wonderful things. They're teaching you how to eat your pineapple and take your baths. And I went through that same thing. And there wasn't a coach out there that I found who could have helped me overcome and then just face some of that. So I just thank you so much for being my voice in this story that I've never discussed and that hardly anyone knows of. And, I know the pain of people not understanding your decision and all of that. So I just want to give you my heart on that one. Rianna, this has just been a beautiful time with you. And I can't tell you how much I got out of this, and I know my listeners will. And listeners, please write any comments in the show notes if you're here on YouTube, and listeners anywhere, just come to my page, Amy McCann, on Facebook. You can find Rianna. She's going to tell you in a moment in her areas. But before you tell people where they can find you, is there one more bit of nugget of wisdom or any thought that you want to give today that people can take away from in their day?
Yeah, I think that would be expectations are the root of all heartache. I think that's been a quote. It came across a couple of times already, and every time it's resonating in a different way. But try to change expectations to curiosity. I think that's been life-changing for me, to not expect too much, but be curious what might happen, what might be good at this sometimes as well, even though that's not the question you always want to answer. But yeah.
Change expectations to curiosity, which brings us right back to the beginning of the show, where we see so much of your curiosity. So what a great way to round this out today, Rianna, because, it's truly amazing, your level of curiosity and inspiration in just your energy, your spirit, your style, everything. I just love everything about you. And I hope that you'll come back and visit us, especially when your book comes out. But please, before we end this, let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, they can find me on Instagram by my name, Rianna Hijlkema, or on my website, riannahijlkema.com.
Excellent. And I will put those links in the show notes as well. So everybody, thank you so much for listening. Rianna, have a beautiful day. And we'll be back again with another beautiful story from you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was wonderful.
All righty.